Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today I'm going to answer a question from a viewer which relates to how he approaches life being an intentionally well-dressed man when the people around him do not apply the same standards of sartorial prowess to their own way of dressing. Now I'm going to withhold this gentleman's name because obviously it might be inflammatory if one of his associates should read this, but I'll just read what's been sent to me. The gentleman says, "I love wearing sports jackets, as do I, sir, except I'm the only one who wears one where I work, which is a tech company. In a large 5-floor building, I am the only person who does not wear jeans, t-shirt and a hoodie to work every day. So every morning, I have to go through the same dilemma when I look in the mirror. Am I looking too fancy for work? Am I trying too hard? It can unsettle a man's confidence. Do you have any advice on that?" And well, sir, to be honest with you, the short but emphatic answer is no. You are not trying too hard. You shouldn't feel your confidence being sort of pulled apart because you dress in a higher standard than the people with whom you work. It shouldn't make you feel uncomfortable just because you are better turned out than those around you. And might I suggest to you, the real issue that we are addressing here today, and I am going to give you some tips, actionable tips that you can employ yourself to overcome these feelings. But the real issue here today is not about you dressing too fancy. Simple answer is no, you're not. It is how you deal with a situation, how you feel with a situation where you are the best dressed man in the place where you work and everybody else dresses as they did when they were a 12-year-old child. And those are the tips that I'm going to give you today. But before I go into those tips, I just want to reiterate the fact that, sir, if you enjoy wearing a sports jacket, as indeed do I, you carry on. You dress in the way that represents your personality, that makes you feel better, and don't give a hoot what anybody else says. But with your concerns in mind, I am going to give you some actionable tips that can help you in this situation. Now, my first tip is one which sounds quite easy, but I know it's a psychological thing. And it is learn to own the look that you have chosen, the things that the standard that you have set yourself for work, the clothes that you put on every day. When you look in that mirror, don't see the reflection looking back at you and say, am I trying too hard? What I want you to do is just own that look. Because if I'm being entirely honest, on my journey through style over the decades of life that I have chosen to dress in different ways, there is one secret that is not difficult, that makes every look feel comfortable. And that is, quite simply, to have the confidence to pull it off. And if you can get that confidence, that feeling that, I am dressing for myself. I am dressing in a way that makes me feel happy, which makes me feel confident, which elevates my mood, right? Own that look and, just let it become a part of who you are. When you feel comfortable, when you have the confidence of your clothing, those around you, it'll soon start to rub off on them. And over time, and it might not take too long at all, they will suddenly stop thinking about the way that you dress as something unusual. And what they will do is realize it is just part of you, your true, authentic self. And they will appreciate you for the way that you are. I mean, you might see many benefits coming your way. If you're the intentionally well-dressed guy in your office, you will soon become known as, the smart guy on the second floor. And people will know who you are. It'll become your clothing will become as a signpost to the type of person that you are. And maybe, I know you work in the tech industry, but there'll be occasions where they'll want somebody who presents themselves well to go into a position, maybe they'll want you to meet a client, or maybe they will want you to appear in some publicity photography for the company. And if you're the well-dressed guy, the smart guy from the 3rd floor, you're the guy they're going to come to. And that will soon become the way that you are perceived by others. But at the beginning, it needs to be you who owns that look and just accept it and make it part of who you are. Now, my next little actionable tip for you, again, it's in the mind, but really what you need to do is just acknowledge the contrast between you and your co-workers in your mind, right? And just move on. Just get on with life. Now, I know it's easier said than done, because when you may be, as you say, the only guy who dresses in a more traditional sartorial manner, it is only natural that you are going to feel somewhat self-conscious about that situation at first. But what I say to you is just quickly have a chat with yourself when you're looking in that mirror and remind yourself that dressing well is all about you, right? It's your individuality which is on display there. It's what should resonate with you when you look in that mirror. It is about you. Your authentic true self is looking back at you, and it does not matter what those other people say or what they think. You are dressing for yourself, okay? They don't dress in the same way. Just get on with it. Move on, go forward, and just be the James Bond of the workplace in which you are employed. Because for me, sometimes if I think, you know, am I overdressing for this situation? I look in the mirror and I set this style standard. I say to myself, would James Bond wear this as he went about his daily life? Because, you know, he's a guy who typically dresses rather conservatively, rather sartorially when we see him in the movies. All right? I know it's a fictional character, but we are often led by fictional characters in the way they dress. And if the answer I bring back to myself is, yeah, James Bond would wear this, that's enough for me. Boosts my confidence. It shows there's a contrast between me and those around me, and I just move on and get on with it. You can do the same. Look in that mirror and just say to yourself, is this something James Bond would wear? If you get that answer back, go for it. Because let me tell you, those guys who are wearing sweatshirts, hoodies and Crocs to work, when they look in the mirror, if they applied that standard to themselves, there would be a big fat no coming back. You're the guy who gets the yes. Now, my next tip for you is more of a practical one, rather than the last two, which were essentially psychological. But what you can do is just take the way that you're looking and soften it a little bit. In other words, dress it down a little. Now, I'm not saying that you should compromise the way that you wish to dress, the way that you wish to portray yourself, but you can just rough the edges off it a little, round it off, soften it, because it might make you feel more comfortable when you're around people who are somewhat slovenly in their dress code, and yet at the same time, you know, you're still your true authentic self. And things I'm talking about now, I'm wearing a woolen sports jacket right now. It is somewhat structured, it is somewhat formal, one might say. I wouldn't say so, I would say it's somewhat casual. But what you could do to soften this look is to opt for a sports jacket made of a less formal material. Now, wool, tweed, they're somewhat formal. You know, blazers even, somewhat formal. These days you can have materials like linen, for instance, or cotton, seersucker, right? These are sports jackets which, by the very nature of the material they're made of, they look a lot more casual. And I'm seeing recently, and I own one myself actually, a woolen knitted sports jacket. So a structured sports jacket made of knitwear. You could go down that route if it'll help you feel better about the way you're dressing. The other thing you can do is the way that you layer clothes with that sports jacket. Instead of going for the, you know, the crisp white shirt and a tie, like I'm going, or maybe you might just omit the tie and go for the open collared shirt look. What you could try doing is layering it with other garments underneath. So maybe if it's the cooler time of year, you know, a fine knitted merino sweater. It just takes the formality out of the look. Or even a polo shirt underneath instead of, you know, a formal dress shirt. Little touches like that They just take the edge off that formality and perhaps make it a little easier for you to wear that garment without feeling so self-conscious. And the last thing, really the practical thing, it's about the accessories, isn't it? You can take some of the accessories and tone them down. So things like your footwear, particularly, your footwear really does set the tone for your outfit. And if you love wearing polished leather, as most well-dressed men do, right, it sets a very high standard because that gleam on your shoe dominates the room. But why not swap out your shoes for something maybe a little more casual, something made in suede, maybe a loafer? Really does lower that formality level and just makes your overall look a little bit more accessible and a little bit less frightening and intimidating to those people around you. And the same goes for the trousers that you wear. So if you're in the habit of wearing, I don't know, grey flannel slacks or navy flannel slacks, or maybe cavalry twill or moleskin, somewhat more formal day-to-day attire, you can swap that out. Go for something like a chino trouser, which is far less formal, doesn't require a crease down the front generally. As I say, it softens the look and makes it more palatable, maybe for yourself, thinking, I'm overdressing for this situation. And really, as I sign off, my final tip for you is just lean into the look, right? Make it your own personal brand. Do not think about it as maybe overdressing. Think of it as your signature style. As I said, people will come to identify you as the smart guy. And you know when that happens. You know when you have captured the zeitgeist in your workplace, because I'm guessing at the moment, when you walk into the break room, people might say, "What's up, Charlie? You're going to court today?" Or, you're going for a job interview? Or somebody died, going to the funeral? You tend to get these, people think they're funny, they never are. But when they swap over to things like, "Oh, look out, here's the smartest man on the floor." Or, "Charlie, looking sharp today, sir." You know you've started to win them over. And then before you know it, people will be coming up to you and say things like, "I've got a wedding to go to on the weekend. I've got to go out and buy some clothes. What tie do you recommend I buy?" Or maybe, "I don't even know how to do up a tie. Can you show me how to do that knot you have on your ties?" And when this starts to happen in the workplace, you know the man at the top of the sartorial pyramid. And it should be not such a concern for you. It's just a matter of laying down that groundwork and sticking with it, sir. Be the man who is unafraid to dress well. Make it your brand, your signature style. There are far worse things to be well known for in your workplace than the best dressed man in the room, let me assure you. So I hope that ameliorates some of your concerns, sir. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more like this. And don't forget, if you have a question for Uncle Ash, send me an email or even drop it into the comment section if that's easier for you, and I'd be delighted to offer my support and assistance where I can. And if you'd like to join me on the journey to Chap Nirvana, you can either buy me a coffee or even become one of my patrons. I make extra videos for my patrons and they also get a personal dialogue with me should they wish to have that. So until the next time, be the master of your sartorial destiny. Do not care what other people say or think. It's about you and your authentic true self. And I will see you again very soon.